Hello. How are you? I'm so glad to have you here and joining me on YouTube. I'm Amanda Kelder. I'm a Christian weight loss and life coach. And I want to talk to you today about why you don't follow through and eat the good food instead of all the bad food that you don't want to be eating. I get this question a lot um, from people in my Facebook group, my challengers, even my clients. They're like, I love all the good food, but I just seem to eat all the bad food. So if you've ever been in that place where you're like, I know I should be eating less carbs and I shouldn't have the 4 brownies, and I actually really like vegetables and fruit. I even enjoy salads, but for some reason, I can't just eat those. I always go to the junk. I make these plans. I even buy the groceries for the healthy meals. But in that moment, I always seem to forget all about it. And I grab the chips from the pantry, or I take the cookie off the counter, and I don't even like the good food doesn't even cross my mind. Why does that happen, Amanda? Can you relate to that? If you can, I've got you. We're going to talk about that today. And I know I've struggled with that in the past myself. It was extremely frustrating for me to actually really like the good food, the healthy food, the food that made my body feel good. And then I I liked it, I would eat it, and I would still gorge myself on all the desserts and sugary stuff. Or sometimes I wouldn't even think about the healthy food and I just went straight for the sugary stuff. And come to find out, there's actually a lot of reasons why this happens, why I wasn't following through on what I really wanted to be doing for myself. But I want to give you three of the top reasons I see most often with my clients, and the ones I also had to overcome so that I was more consistent and lost weight. Okay. Not only more, not only lose weight, but just create this healthy temple for my body to, those foods that provide me a lot of energy to go out and serve. So the first most common reason I see that I find women don't follow through on what they want to be eating is because they don't make a plan. Yes, we are good at planning in our head, but if this is you, if you say you plan in your head, that actually doesn't count as a plan. Okay. I don't let my clients get a pass on that. You can't just plan in your head. A real plan is one that you write down or log in some way before you start your day. That is a plan. You don't just say in your head, well, I'm going to eat healthier today. That's not a plan. Okay. A plan is actual food that you have in your fridge or wherever you're going to be that you are going to eat for that day. And yes, I said you write this down before the start of your day, not before the meal, but before the day. You decide what you're going to eat, the night before or the morning of, and you make it really clear to yourself that you have made this decision. You have put these foods on your plan for yourself out of love. Thinking about your future you that loses the weight, that has the energy to go out and serve. And out of love is key here. Because often what I find is we punish ourselves with the good food. Even though we like it, we tend to punish ourselves. We punish ourselves by just eating the rice cakes and the kind of semi-seasoned chicken or maybe even unseasoned chicken the next day because you binged the night before. But if you make a plan with even just a little bit of punishment, if it was not fully out of love, you will not follow that plan. And this is why it's effective for follow through, okay? When it comes down to it, God made our brains just amazing. And there's two main parts to our brain that makes planning so effective at helping you follow through. Follow through on what you say you want to do for yourself, okay? The first part is the prefrontal cortex. And our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that thinks about our future, understands consequences, it reasons, okay? So we really want to be using this when making decisions about food. This is the part we use when we plan. Now, we also have something called our lower brain or our limbic system. That part of our brain creates habits. And it's the part that wants immediate pleasure. It doesn't reason, it doesn't think through the consequences. And this is the part of our brain we use to make decisions in the moment. When we're standing in line at that restaurant or, that fast food place and we're looking at the menu, and if we don't have a plan before walking in, that limbic system is going to take over and your habits are going to take over. Like, how many of you have sat down, like eating some chips or like chips out of the bag, or had like a container of puppy chow and didn't even realize you had picked it up? And now you're just like chowing it down. That, my friend, is your limbic system. That is your habit part of your brain. And it's a beautiful part of our brain. We really want it. I can get into all that later. But that is the part of the brain that takes over. And that's when you realize, oh, I'm eating this. I didn't even really want to eat it. But here's the cool thing. Our prefrontal cortex is actually stronger than our lower brain. So if you consciously choose ahead of time, you are less likely to be in that part of the brain, your lower brain. You'll be in your prefrontal cortex, which is the one that has your future in mind. And this is why planning is important. It helps you choose ahead of time so you're not just falling into those old patterns, the patterns that you're trying to break. Okay? But I'm going to be quite honest here. Planning is not foolproof. Okay? So there's other pieces of the puzzle here when it comes to following through, which brings me to my second reason that I want to share with you. Why most of you don't follow through on what you want to be doing for yourselves, what you want to be eating. And it's because of your emotions. We feel as though we have no control over how we feel, that our emotions are out of control. And we don't like that feeling. And we don't even like the feelings of emotions. So what do? We eat through them to avoid them. And I know you can relate. I bet there's times you've come home stressed, frustrated, and the first place you'll find yourself is opening up the freezer for ice cream or that pantry for some chips. And we don't follow through because we don't know how to manage our feelings. We don't know how to feel them rather than use food to avoid them. If you don't think that's even a possibility for you, like if you were like, I don't even know if I could manage my emotions. Like I'm stressed and food is the only thing that takes care of it. If you believe that, then you will struggle with overeating until you embrace the fact that God gave you a way to manage your emotions, to actually feel them and not eat through them. And a big piece of this is knowing too that all emotions are okay. They are God-given signals. God gave you emotions for a reason. You need to understand what God is signaling you to through those emotions, which is something I talk a lot about in my group coaching program. We deal a lot with emotions and understanding them and feeling them rather than eating through them. And knowing what emotions we're feeling and what the signal is so we can learn the lesson that God's giving us. Which leads me to the next top reason why women struggle to follow through consistently. They avoid learning the lesson from the overeat, the binge, the mindless eating. They want to just block that out and pretend it never happened. But here's the deal. Did you know God is so good? So good. And he can use anything, even sin, destruction, that is a binge and an overeat, and bring good out of it. Isn't that crazy? It's super cool. So that means even your binge, even when you ate 3 desserts at the potluck, God can use that for good. Yes, it's crazy to think about. It's kind of hard to wrap our brains around at first, but he can. But the only way that he can actually really use it for good is when you look at it and figure out the lesson from it. Okay? That's when you understand the root of the problem. Because I promise you, the problem is not food. Food doesn't have the legs or the arms or the muscles to jump in your mouth and climb down your throat against your will. The problem is the choice you're making and why you're making that choice to pick up that food and put it in your mouth. A lot of times that choice is very unconscious, but it's still a choice. And God is giving you a lesson about all of that. And are you looking at those lessons or are you avoiding them? Like, what do you do after a binge or an overeat? Do you shut down? Do you call yourself some names? Do you tell yourself you're a failure, that you'll never be able to lose weight, that you're never going to be able to figure this out? Do you rehash and spin in that sin over and over and over again? Or do you get curious as to why and what led you to that eating? Do you seek God in prayer and ask for the lesson, revealing that good plan to you? If it's the first way, that's the way you've been doing it, that is one main reason why you may not be following through. There's a lesson to be learned before getting to the next step. So, for each of these three reasons, for each of the reasons why you don't follow through on what you say you will do, like not writing down a plan, eating through your feelings instead of feeling them, and resisting the lesson, there are specific tools and teachings that I dive into my group program with, right? Like we dive into all three of these and many more. And my group is called Reclaimed, and this group is designed for you to practice these things, to help you reclaim your self-control, to follow through on what you say you will do for yourself. And eat the healthy food, the food that makes you feel good. And actually follow through on that guiding from God. But this group, my group coaching program, is only available for the women that participate in the Empowered Challenge. And the next challenge is coming up on May 16th. Now, the Empowered Challenge is totally free. It's for anybody that wants to start learning some of these tools and really getting to the root of the problem, understanding why you feel so out of control, especially around food, and how to reclaim that self-control. Because I promise you, you have self-control inside of you. It's a fruit of the Spirit. But how do you reclaim that? And we're going to dive deeper into just that in the Empowered Challenge. So I have the link in the comments for the Empowered Challenge. I want you to come sign up. Come be a part of the group. And I want you to take back that self-control. Live in more freedom and joy around food. And that's exactly what this group does for you. I just can't wait to see you there. We'll talk soon.